leadership of the great physician welcomes you to House Call. Our host today...
She thinks we already did this yeast program last time.
Dr. Richard Jensen, who is also a board-certified acupuncturist, practice independently in Shoreview, Minnesota. Let's join our hosts for today's program that will assist you
Rhodiola.
for optimum health and well-being.
Welcome to House Call. I'm Dr. Rhodiola.
And I'm Dr. Richard Jensen.
Again, it's wonderful to have you with us on House Call. We appreciate all of your emails and telephone calls and letters. You're very, very gracious people. And we're just so happy that you invite us into your home or workplace or hospital or nursing home, wherever you are, even in your automobile. And so many of you go out on our website and downstream, video stream down programs. We've got programs out there from A to Z on every possible health condition you could ever think of. And so today we're going to invite you to go out on our website. That's www.housecalltv.org, and that's where all of the info is. And of course, our program comes from Shoreview, Minnesota. This is God's country, the gateway to the North Ocean of America, right?
Yeah, the Scandinavian Riviera.
The Scandinavian Riviera. And so right through Shoreview is Interstate 35, takes you right up to God's country, and so this is a beautiful place to be. So
and they
come
do
visit us.
speak English up there, or some semblance thereof.
You might have to listen a little bit more closely, though. So eliminating stress through a chemical called Rhodiola Rosea. What does that mean? It is a herbal adaptogen. That's what it's called, an herbal adaptogen. What would that mean? It means that it's an herb compound that adapts to different functions in the body, assists then the body in preparing to handle internal biochemical stressors within our body. Now, what does that mean? What are stressors? What are stressors, Dr. Jensen?
Well, here I look at there are things or events that cause emotional or physical stress to humans. They can be physical or emotional or spiritual in nature. Many times what we find is when a person is under stress, they normally can handle it from a point that all they have to do is have a little more rest or change their diet, those kinds of things, and they bounce back. But there's sometimes with when they're under stress that it's gotten beyond their ability to cope with it, and where changing their diet and so forth is just not enough to bring them back, and so they need, well, like what you just said, an adaptogen in order to help them. And so here's what we're looking at is, sometimes like the physical stressors would be things such as labor, exercise, and some injuries can cause that physical stress. Emotionally, it can be things like rejection or pressure that's placed upon them, and insults can also be those stressors. And so sometimes people come back and they've just had a lot of pressure that way. So here we look at, this is a particular herb you're talking about.
Rhodiola Rosea?
Yes, that
What
is
is it then?
an adaptogen. It is a native plant. It's found in the northern latitudes of the United States.
Could it be found in Minnesota?
Ooh, it could be.
I've seen it in Minnesota.
Have you?
I've even seen it in Burnsville.
Ooh,
Wow.
Yeah. So it affects the brain and nervous system.
In a positive way.
In a positive way. It increases resistance to external biochemical and physical stressors, as we're talking about. And sometimes there's good stress, but we're talking about distress in this case. And distress leads you to dis-ease. And so what we want to do is, this is something that enhances your neurotransmitters, that helps you to relax and deal with things better.
Even though people that come to our clinic initially are often have a lot of stress and are sick and have diseases and that, it's still a happy clinic.
Absolutely.
We don't want it to be like a typical medical or chiropractic or dental clinic that aren't happy.
Right.
So what are neurotransmitters then?
Okay. A neurotransmitter is an amino acid transporting hormone released from the axon or the terminal of a presynaptic neuron, that's pretty technical, which diffuses across a synaptic cleft to either excite or inhibit the target cell.
And if they replay the program 6 or 7 times, they'll get that
They
down.
may get that. They may get that. We do sell a textbook. No, I'm kidding.
We don't have a textbook.
We don't have a textbook to sell you. Find the library. Here's what it's basically. You have nerve cells, and nerve cells have chemical transmitters that go from its communicating end, that's called the axon, to either a dendrite or some other sensitive area of a cell that is sensitive to those neurotransmitters for that communication to go across. And a lot of times it's formatted like this. This is where the axon is, and this is where the signaling tissue is in the synapse. And there's a space in between there. And this is a chemical that goes from here and locks on to a receptor over here. And that creates that communication across that gap.
That's what Diane tells me it is when she kisses me.
When she kisses you, that's
There's a synapse there.
it gets neurotransmitters going, huh? Okay, so common neurotransmitters are found, they're cortisol, cortisone, creatinine, DHEA, dopamine, estrogens, estradiol, and epinephrine are all types of transmitters that work to communicate in the body. Common conditions related to neurotransmitters would be dementia, ADD and ADHD, anxiety, bulimia can be affected by neurotransmitters.
And we're really serious about this, that people who are suffering with mental aging, with attitude problems, with anxiety or bulimia, very often they have neurotransmitter imbalances in their body. And it's
Lack
not that,
of concentration.
It's not that difficult to diagnose and treat that naturally.
You're looking at, in many cases, there is a breakdown in a cascade that it's a reward cascade within our body that allows us to feel good about ourselves. And many times that chemical is just either deficient or not quite working. The communication is not quite there, and so they have an abnormal viewpoint of themselves, and it's not all just psychological. It can have a physical manifestation or a physical cause, in which case these people may need some help. Okay? Mm-hmm. So some of the other things that are caused by this, or some other common conditions related to neurotransmitters, would be 1, depression, okay, chronic fatigue syndrome, Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease, diabetes can be related to this, hormone dysfunctions, and obesity. Continuing would be epilepsy, insomnia, malaise, just a bad, unhealthy feeling, that you just don't feel right. Mood changes, neuropathy, schizophrenia may be part of this. Stress, definitely stress. Fibromyalgia. And when we talk about problems with that brain reward cascade, many of these people are predisposed towards addictions and an addiction type personality, so we can look at drug or alcohol addictions in this case. So, Dr. Lala, what about relationships to these neurotransmitters of disease?
As we said, neurotransmitters are hormones, and we mentioned several types of them. And one we're going to look at now is epinephrine. And some of the diseases that are related to imbalances of epinephrine are anxiety, hyperactivity, fatigue, obesity. Now, the neurotransmitter norepinephrine, some of the diseases related to imbalances of norepinephrine are hypertension or high blood pressure, obesity, in other words, an issue of not being able to take off the weight or taking the weight off and it always coming back, stress, insulin resistance, fibromyalgia, depression, mood disorders, anorexia, and bulimia. And I think, Dr. Jensen, maybe this issue about insulin resistance, you could address that, because that's such a major, major issue today.
Sure. Well, let's look at it from this point of view, is that epinephrine and norepinephrine are adrenaline in the body and in the brain. And what happens is when we release a lot of epinephrine, say if there's too much flowing through the body, it's a stress response, and it releases cortisol in the body. And cortisol in the body then goes to the liver, and the liver then says, hey, I'm under stress, I need energy, let's create sugar. And it creates sugar from protein from your lean body mass, which is your muscle. And it sends that out to the body for energy.
Which predisposes us then to sarcopenia or muscle wasting.
To sarcopenia or muscle wasting. But it also what it does is it predisposes us towards diabetes, in that it's raising our blood sugar level.
Adult onset diabetes.
From the inside. Mm-hmm. From the inside, not from the outside. Mm-hmm. So it's almost an emotional diabetes that you're creating. Mm-hmm. And so they get central adiposity that's going on, because the sugar is being created there and stored in the fat there, so it makes it harder for them to lose weight. Mm-hmm. In fact, stress has a great deal to do with weight and not being able to effectively take weight off. And that's one of the things that exercise really helps with, helping to keep our cool-headed and lower some of that adrenaline and help that. Another one is dopamine, Dr. Lala. What about dopamine?
Well, dopamine is another very important neurotransmitter, and often deficiencies or excesses of it predispose an individual to autism, hyperactivity, Parkinson's disease, insomnia, drug or alcohol abuse, and dementia. And I would tell you this, we see a great deal, a large number of patients, new patients every year, who have Parkinson's disease and Alzheimer's disease. Very, very sad cases with them coming in, and they're all on drugs, several drugs. When we do a neurotransmitter test on them, and generally a couple other blood tests, and then put them on natural neurotransmitters, it often is incredible, the positive responses they make. And we send them back to the medical doctors and say, hey, do they really need the drugs that you're prescribing? And so if you have Parkinson's or Alzheimer's as some form of dementia, if you have a family member or a friend, and they've not had a neurotransmitter analysis, it really is important to do that. I would tell you that from my heart, that they should really do that, and it should be done by a nutritionally oriented, science-based natural health care practitioner. I'm not talking about some wellness or alternative health care practitioner who's practicing probably voodoo nutrition or maybe voodoo nutrition by just dispensing neurotransmitters that they're getting from some vitamin company that they're getting a kickback from, but rather that you do the test first so you know specifically what they specifically need, right? Right. And I wanted to address something about dopamine also. We have a thing, it's found in all vertebrates or mammals, so it's found within humans. There's a thing called a brain reward cascade. I talked about it before, and it's mediated by dopamine and dopamine receptors. And the reason why it's found within mammals is that we find along the spine, the nervous system right there with the spinal cord, it has a great amount of dopamine receptors through there. And so when there is a subluxation or the lesion that chiropractors take care of with this disrelationship between the bones, and it's placing pressure on the nervous system, what we find is there's a disturbance to this brain reward cascade. And many years, chiropractors with their adjustments have noticed within their patients a real change in attitude. So that tongue-in-cheek, you'd almost call it an attitude adjustment. Well, they found scientifically that that's actually a reaction that is taking place, that they do. It doesn't mean that it makes you feel abnormally happy. It means that you're able to feel better
to the amount that you can feel good. And therefore, what they found is that chiropractic is now finding an avenue into helping with addictive behaviors due to that the adjustments are being recognized more and more, particularly down in the state of Florida, as a treatment cycle for these people who are on very hard drugs as well. That within acupuncture also, and it's due to its reactions on the dopamine receptors.
Well, then how does a person determine their neurotransmitters?
Okay, there are some ways in which you can look at neurotransmitters. It's how you react, actually, which comes down through questionnaires, is one aspect of looking at that. And in some cases, that can be quite good. But we always like to look at something that is not as subjective as a questionnaire. We want to look at more objective nature of data collection as we can.
Science-based nutrition.
Science-based nutrition from a point of being able to actually measure that. And many times that's through a neurotransmitter analysis that is taken through a collection of urine byproducts. Okay, it's urine. It's looking at the byproducts of the neurotransmitters and therefore seeing what those levels are in an individual.
Okay, and so we've been talking about Rhodiola Rosea. Could you talk more about it? So it's something that people can access themselves.
Okay.
What does it-
Rhodiola Rosea is actually, you're looking at its chemical reactors, really. It has 6 different chemicals that react on the system as an adaptogen, helping us deal better with stress. And so one of those is phenylpropanoids, and those are active ingredients within there. There's rosavins, and so it contains rosavin, rosin, and rosarina.
And they are what? They stimulate the nervous system then?
Yes, they're thought to be nervous system
Natural.
stimulators.
There's no adverse reactions like a drug.
Right, right. And so there's one portion of that. Then we go into another of these categories. It's monoamines and opioids and beta endorphins.
And again, these are natural compounds.
These are natural compounds that are found within that. When you're looking at it, they're looking at the whole herb. And many times what we find is such as, let me use an example. We always knew that vitamin E was good for us. And we knew the most active form of vitamin E was D-alpha tocopherol. But then after some years of using that, we found out that the D-alpha tocopherol wasn't all that you needed. They were starting to say that it wasn't very good in vitamin E and that you shouldn't take vitamin E. Well, they found out what you really needed was the whole family of tocopherols, of vitamin E's. And so now when you take vitamin E, it's supposed to be the family of it, or mixed tocopherols. And so when you look at stuff that's mixed as God made it, it puts chemicals in there that work together synergistically. And so therefore the natural product is more active than just taking out this chemical, that chemical, and the other chemical, which some people do so that they can patent it. Okay?
All right.
All right. So what we have are
It's the American way, make money.
Oh, well, sure, sure. But what we have is from monoamines, opioids, and beta endorphins within this. They modulate the monoamines, or Rhodiola Rosea, modulate the monoamines and opioids and beta endorphins in the body. It also inhibits monoamine oxidase and catechol-methyltransferases from happening.
A lot of big words there, but it comes in a simple pill. And it doesn't cost a lot of money. If they're charging a lot of money for this, brothers and sisters, back away, all right? You know, there's just too much markup in it, okay?
Right.
Don't make a chiropractor rich, okay, or nutritionist.
So if you look at these neurotransmitters we were talking about earlier, as dopamine, epinephrine, and norepinephrine, okay, all stimulants of the nervous system.
So what else then does Rhodiola do then?
Well, it increases the levels of those monoamine transmitters and assists in transporting those 3 neurotransmitters across the blood-brain barrier. Okay, and so in that case, it makes them more active within the brain.
So monoamine then transmitters facilitate neurotransmitters such as dopamine norepinephrine and serotonin to cross the blood-brain barrier. I don't know if people understand what a blood-brain barrier is.
Okay.
It's not like somebody is stubborn. That's not what we're talking about.
No, it's to keep certain substances out of the brain that are supposed to be out of the brain and let other substances in that can be in the brain, such as the fats are brain builders, the sugars are the main energy of the brain, but we want to keep the immune system away from the brain. And that's why a lot of people said that actually multiple sclerosis was due to an injury that introduced the immune system to nervous tissue and now allows your immune system to attack the brain tissue or nervous system in that regard. So that's the reason why we keep those things separate.
And we know that certain drugs can't cross the blood-brain barrier and other drugs can, the way they're designed. Well,
Right.
Rhodiola Rosea is naturally that way, right?
Right.
Okay, what else does it do then?
Okay, it induces opioid biosynthesis via an opioid receptor activation.
So we have receptors in our body, and they're receptors they're designed for certain chemicals.
Right.
And so it facilitates the activation of those receptors.
Right. And then it also affects the function of the brain and the nervous system due to that action. Okay?
So are there different species of it, or is it all standard, or?
No. There's up to 50 different species of within the rhodiola
And that
genus.
comes in nature. Man didn't create those species.
No, we didn't. And so,
Some men would like you to think on a patent that they did.
right, and some of these species may be more active than others, and so a lot of times when you're looking for this, there's poor standardization that comes from it.
What does that mean?
So you want to check.
It means that the FDA, Federal Drug Administration, doesn't highly oversee these natural compounds or chemicals.
Right.
All right, so the people in alternative health care and selling vitamins and minerals and wellness and care and all of that, often there's such poor regulation that the standards are poorly administered. So how does one deal with that then?
Well, one of the things is you got to check the label.
And hopefully believe that the label is truthful.
Right.
Which a lot of them aren't, to be very honest with you.
And so it should contain at least 16% of the rhodiola genus in it. And it may contain products, some products, in order to save on the manufacture of this, you can find that it's as low as about 3%.
Now, personally, as I follow my wife around and she's shopping and things like that, and I always go in these health food stores and in Target and Walmart and these different places, and I have yet to find where they carry Rhodiola Rosea that lists more than 3%. And it's not going to be effective unless it's up there at least 16% or more.
Right.
And so then that tells us that we want to make sure that we're taking a product that is GME certified. That means that the manufacturer has submitted that product for independent laboratory analysis, and that the lab says exactly what species are in it and what the percentage of those species are. So then that tells us what's a good source of it, and we want a pure form of it. And there are some titles out there called GMP, NNFA, NSF, and TGA certified grapeseed extract. So there you go, folks. It is high in grapeseed extracts. So let's talk a little bit more about grapeseed extract, okay?
Okay. Grapeseed extract. 5-methyl tetrahydrofolate is the chemical process. And grapeseed extract is designed as a neurological antioxidant with mitochondrial protection and circulatory functions. The 5-methyl tetrahydrofolate is a chemical that is essential for nerve life, is involved in neurotransmitter metabolism, methylation, homocysteine metabolism. Boy, that's a word that goes around, homocysteine. And
The
nervous
homocysteine is high, they have a much higher predisposition to coronary infarct, right? Heart
Right.
attack.
Right, and it's known for its properties as increasing oxidative stress. So then we're looking at grapeseed extract is also 95% anthocyanins. Okay, and this is it feeds it's mitochondrial. And the principal sites of oxidative reactions by which potential energy in foods is made available for cellular function. So it increases the availability of energy due to increasing the cellular function of the mitochondria. Okay?
And there are some products out there, we don't happen to stock them in our clinic or anything, but if a person is really looking at neuroprotection, one of the chemicals that is high in grapeseed extract and Rhodiola Rosea is Serlin Forte. It's very important to have proper synergistic ingredients as well as proper amounts. It's designed to promote and support protection of the brain and nervous system. Another one for forgetfulness, if a person is having difficulty with forgetfulness, is Cervia. It's designed to support cognitive function, memory. It has antioxidant properties. It therefore is believed to be effective for myocardial function, heart function, nerve cell protection, and modulating what we call acetylcholine, a chemical regulating blood pressure and emotional stability. Another chemical for distracted mood is called Lumia. It's designed to support mental health function, relaxation, and healthy stress response. Another chemical is called Symphora. This is for people who struggle with a negative attitude. In other words, they don't want to have a negative attitude, but they keep getting under the pressure of a negative attitude. And those chemicals within that product are designed to promote a positive mood, mental well-being by modulating brain metabolism of cortisol. Then there's Trancor. That's a chemical or product that has to do with nervousness, and it's important in balancing of the neurotransmitters. There's two of them primarily here called GABA and glutamate. It therefore is designed to assist in a sense of tranquility for those who have chronic worry. It supports relaxation, protects against neurotoxicity, and then here's one that I take called Bensum. It's for insomnia. I have a very active brain. I can go 24 hours a day, several days in a row, and therefore my brain just keeps going and going, particularly if I don't get my regular daily exercise routine in. And it relaxes then, or regulates melatonin function within our brain, which promotes restful sleep, acting upon the brain and nervous system. So, yes, Dr. Jensen.
And if you look at all those chemicals that you brought up in the just at the end of the show, those are not all found within the same tablet as the
No, they're separate products.
But those are other helps that would work with a particular person, depending upon what their analysis would say that they need and how to deal with as adaptogens for the kind of stress that they're under.
Yeah, that's right. There are a lot of companies selling these products, and some of them aren't very effective. But they put a lot of hype and high glossy literature and high pressure sales behind them. And the reason that they're not very effective compared to some that are very effective is they're not a true product. They have a lot of fillers in them. They have a low percentage of the chemicals, of these neurotransmitter chemicals in them, as opposed to a good product. So if you've tried some neurotransmitters and they've not helped you, it may be that you just didn't get a good product. And a lot of these products, they'll put real high prices on them, and they shouldn't be high priced. It shouldn't be like a drug price. And it's because they put such a high markup in them. And I realize that you have to pay your rent and things like that. There's nothing wrong with making a profit. We have to make house payments and pay for gasoline and things like that. But very often, they decrease the quality of the product, which then increases the profit. And so God designed you to live a long life in good health and to profit from His Word as well as the natural laws He's given us.